Back in 2017, we started, and honestly, Howard, it was a small group activity trying to engage organizations and community members about issues that were important to them. And within about 10 minutes of the beginning of that meeting, two things rose to the top. It was mental health and substance use disorder in our collective communities, Genesee, Orleans, and Wyoming counties. And from there, we mobilized and began conversations, but it became clear that without some resources and someone to keep us honest, and that would be Allison. The resources came from the Greater Rochester Health Foundation. Allison came by virtue of that grant to begin to mobilize that group of impassioned, empowered people, 50 to start, almost 400 now, around issues involving substance use disorder, recovery resources, stigma reduction in our communities. That's what this is about today. And it's no coincidence that this is a circle of tables. It's almost like these organizations and these community members have joined hands to support the recovery initiatives that are afoot in our three counties.
Now, here's where I run the risk with some of you. Because nobody believes in multiple pathways more than I do. And whatever works for you in your recovery, I do not argue with in any way, shape, or form. So if there are certain words that I'm about to talk about that still work for you and how you think about your recovery, that is not what I'm talking about. But I will make the argument until the day I die that as people who are dedicated to the treatment and recovery world, we all have an obligation to challenge the current narrative in the community. I'm not worried about anybody here today. I am worried about Joe Blow sitting at home, gets all their information about what addiction is from the newspaper. And anytime there's an article about addiction, it is usually pretty negative, followed with the obligatory picture of hypodermic needles in an alleyway. And that's what they know about addiction and those addicts who have it. And as long as they can hold on to that narrative, they don't have to think about it. They don't have to worry about it. And here's where it really impacts us. They don't even have to envision you as a human being.
For me, it's continue the conversation, reduce the stigma associated with mental health and substance use disorder. I challenge almost anybody you meet on the street to say that it doesn't affect them somehow, because it does.
Yeah, that's the part that in the 35 years I've been doing this, the stigma towards people with addiction is just so profound still, and it's still alive and well. And so just getting out there and educating people and continuing to fight the good fight of changing people's views and opinions of people in recovery and people with addiction.
And none of us, for those of us that happen to have had substance use disorder, are our disease. We are people who had it. And all of those behaviors that came out of you, all those funky behaviors that came out of you when you were in active addiction, when the disease state was active, you know what those are? They're symptoms. And I know they're symptoms because you know what happens to them when you make your disease go inactive? The symptoms go away. We look different. And when we look different in recovery, there's a bit of another narrative out there that somehow we're better. We're better people than we were when we were in active addiction. And even that I find myself thinking about. No, we weren't better people. We are always wonderful people from the day we took our first breath, who for some of us, due to a variety of complex reasons, happen to develop this disease. That part of the symptoms are some pretty funky behavior comes out of us. That does hurt people.
We want to save lives. We want people to come together. We want to continue to see this is right here. Hashtag end overdose. That's what we want to see happen.
One person and one more who's ready to enter the path to recovery, and just more discussion around an issue that affects the entire communities in Genesee, Orleans, and Wyoming counties.